We got a positive episode today. We're not talking about all that craziness that we've been talking about the last two episodes. If you want to get caught up, go check those out. But we are talking Baltimore Ravens football, Baltimore Ravens updates. We got a new linebackers coach that I'm excited about. I'm going to go through his background and what he might bring to the Ravens this year. We also got some updates on Chris Hewitt, who already found a new home with a different NFL team. We got the Pro Bowl today. There are some Ravens still in the Pro Bowl. We'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll end the episode with some Q&A, all that and more in today's episode of the Flock Rundown.
Ravens Flock. The Flock Rundown is the place to be.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.
Appreciate you, Ray. What's up, Ravens fans? My name is Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of the Flock Rundown. First of all, it feels so refreshing to talk about some just regular team updates and not all that heavy stuff we've been talking about the last few episodes. If you need to get caught up, go check those out. I'm not talking about it anymore. We got a new linebackers coach, Tyler Santucci. He's never coached in the NFL, but he's on the rise. He's only 36 years old. He's been rising quickly through the college ranks. He started at Stony Brook in 2019, where he also played linebacker at from 2006 to 2009. He was Big South Defensive Player of the Year as a senior, and then went on to be co-defensive coordinator and linebackers coach at Texas A&M in 2022. Got promoted to become the defensive coordinator at Duke the year after, and then most recently was the defensive coordinator at Georgia Tech. He's received a lot of interest from NFL teams over the last few years and has been quickly rising the ranks. I mean, he's only 36. This is a young defensive mind getting brought onto the staff. I like what Spencer Schultz had to say here. He said, Santucci is exactly the type of hire the Ravens needed, young but experienced and ascending. Rumors about Clemson looking to poach him. Santucci believes in an attacking style defense that generates turnovers, turn the Duke defense around. Santucci took this Georgia Tech defense from last place to fifth in the AFC only in 1 year. He only had 1 year there. And then at Duke, they led the ACC's top scoring defense. When he was at Texas A&M, they had the nation's #1 pass defense. He was the co-coordinator there. So he's going to come in and replace Mark DeLeon as our linebackers coach. And Mark only had 1 year. You know, Zach Orr was our linebackers coach, obviously got promoted to defensive coordinator. We had Mark DeLeon last year as linebackers coach. The organization obviously didn't love what he brought to the table because they let him go in one season. And now they're bringing on Tyler Santucci, who seems to be a rising talent in the coaching ranks and has interviewed multiple times with multiple teams in the last few years and has done really well. And I love that he keeps getting promoted quickly. You know, that's a great sign, obviously. That's a sign that he is an ascending coach. When he's going from co-defensive coordinator and linebackers coach at Texas A&M to the following year, you're the defensive coordinator at Duke, and then you're the defensive coordinator at Georgia Tech, and you're improving all of their defenses. That's a great guy to have on your staff. And it's not like he's going to be in a pivotal role. I don't think he's coming to the Ravens with an insane amount of responsibility. This is just another young mind to add to this coaching staff. And I think it's a really smart hire. He's going to bring some juice into this linebackers room. Not that a guy like Roquan Smith really needs it, but it could go a long way for a guy like Trenton Simpson, who still has a lot of development ahead of him. Maybe we draft another inside linebacker in this year's draft. Like, those younger guys are going to need development, and I think Tyler Santucci is the perfect guy for this job. I think he might even stick on this Ravens staff a little bit more and get promoted as the years go. I don't know if linebackers coach is this guy's end-all be-all. I think he's going to be a defensive coordinator in this league. Moving on to Chris Hewitt. I didn't get to talk about this situation as much. That freaking Tucker stuff came out, but they mutually parted ways. He was our pass game coordinator, secondary coach. He's been here since 2012. Long tenured coach for the Baltimore Ravens. They parted ways when we brought on Chuck Pagano. So I don't know the inside information of that. I don't know if he was mad that they brought on Chuck Pagano, if it was like, hey, we kind of want Chuck to have a decent sized role here, and you know, your role's declining then, and he's like, nah, I don't really want to be in that type of role or be a part of a situation like that. But they just put out a statement that they mutually parted ways, and now he's officially hired as the Colts pass game coordinator and secondary coach. So he quickly finds another job. I mean, that was less than a week. I mean, it was not long at all. A few days go by and he's hired by the Colts. And that's just a credit to Chris Hewitt's experience. Like I said, he's been on the Ravens for 12 years. You know, it's not like he's a new coach that's been moving around or anything like that. This is a coach that's been here a long, long time. And I think he does bring a lot of value to the Colts, especially having that much experience. So wishing Chris Hewitt well, but I am excited about Chuck Pagano coming into this secondary and just being a part of this defensive coaching staff. I think that is an upgrade, and that's no shot at Chris Hewitt, but he ain't got the experience Chuck Pagano's got, you know what I mean? Chuck Pagano's been around football a lot longer and was here before Chris Hewitt in this Ravens organization, so understands the foundation of this defense just as much, if not more, than he would. You know, Chris Hewitt came in 2012. Chuck Pagano came in with John Harbaugh in 2008. And I think Chuck Pagano brings a lot to the table. I don't know if he saw this move coming, because when Chuck Pagano spoke on Pat McAfee's show the day after he got hired and kind of told the story about how he got hired and everything, he was saying that he's excited to work with Chris Hewitt. But that just could be him being nice and not being like, oh yeah, I'm coming in to replace him. Because Pat McAfee asked Chuck Pagano, what's your role going to look like? Like, you know, everybody has a coaching label or a label at your job, right? Like, oh, I'm a coordinator or assistant to this or whatever. But like, what are you actually doing? And Chuck Pagano was saying that he's kind of there like assisting guys like Chris Hewitt. And then Chris Hewitt leaves. So I don't really know what the original plan was. I don't know if Chuck Pagano was kind of surprised by Chris Hewitt leaving, or if he was just kind of being nice publicly on Pat McAfee, not, you know, outing anybody, saying like, oh, I'm kind of coming in to replace this guy. You know, so I don't know. But that is what it's going to end up being, because now we don't have our leading pass game coordinator and secondary coach in Chris Hewitt, and we hired Chuck Pagano to be in this senior advisory role of the secondary. I would imagine he's going to take over a lot of Chris Hewitt's responsibilities. So I still think it's an upgrade. That's no shot at Chris Hewitt. I just love Chuck Pagano, and I think he's the perfect leader and defensive mind to bring into this coaching staff, along with Dean Pease. I mean, we got a lot of knowledge on that side of the ball, and I think that's just going to bode well for the Ravens defense moving forward. We got the Pro Bowl today. I don't know how many of you guys are watching. I'm not insanely interested in it. I watched some highlights of like the skills games and things like that. They were okay, but this game's struggling, and now we got a flag football game today to watch. But there are some Ravens in the Pro Bowl. I know a ton of the main stars backed out, but we still got Pat Ricard there, Kyle Van Noy, Kyle Hamilton, Tyler Linderbaum, Marlon Humphrey, and Ronnie Stanley. The Ravens have been putting out a ton of clips of Marlon Humphrey interviewing people at the Pro Bowl and things like that. Kyle Hamilton's filming. They interviewed Patrick Queen.
We're here with a former Baltimore Raven, now a Pittsburgh Steeler. PQ, you know, this is going to be a good interview here. Obviously rivals, now. But how was that first season with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Just give us all the meats and potatoes.
Off season, I think you know how off season went since you stirred up the whole thing.
We're going to ask you this one question. This is more for your base. What's the best part of being a Pittsburgh Steeler?
Beating y'all.
Beating y'all. I didn't want to go. See, I was crazy. I was trying not to really go there. And you had to just beat Lamb. No, I wasn't. I literally did it. Oh, my God. It's crazy.
Patrick Queen replaced Roquan Smith at the Pro Bowl once he backed out. So now all these Ravens are around Patrick Queen. But I'm sure it's all love. You know, it's obviously more beef with, like, the fan base and just kind of, like, friendly beef because of the rivalry. But it's not like they don't like the guy anymore or anything like that. So it's cool to see the dynamic there. It's cool to see all the guys, you know, in a positive environment. But the Pro Bowl is declining, in my opinion. We've talked about this in previous episodes. I don't really know what's going to lift the game. I hate the flag football part of it. I understand keeping players safe and maybe even trying to entice more guys to show up, but a lot of the stars backed out. I mean, I know Joe Burrow's still there as the quarterback, but you know, look at the rest of the roster. You got Russell Wilson and Drake May. I mean, when guys like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Derrick Henry and Roquan Smith back out, I mean, you're just losing so much star power. And on top of that, it's flag football. It's just kind of, I don't know. It's not that interesting to watch anymore, but we'll see how it goes today. I probably will watch it because I'm a degenerate, but I will admit I'm not enjoying it nearly as much as I did when I was a kid, and that's like 15, 20 years ago. The Pro Bowl was a lot different. It was still kind of physical. I know they laid off a lot, but I mean, we were still playing tackle football. It still seemed like it mattered, and now they're kind of just goofing off playing flag football, so it's a lot different of a game, and I don't really know what will lift it, but I still I need some positivity in my life right now, and I think the Pro Bowl will still be kind of fun to watch, so we'll see. Let's get into some Q&A from you guys. Not a ton of questions today. We've been talking about the friggin' Tucker stuff for the last 3 days, so I know you guys haven't been dropping questions, but keep dropping questions in the comments, and I'll just pluck them and do some Q&As at the end of these episodes. But first question is from Mr. Steelio Girl. Who's your top 5 Ravens of all time? Ray, Ed, Joe, Suggs, and Jimmy Smith are mine. I love this question. Top 5 Ravens. I made a top 10 Ravens video way back like 2 years ago when I first started this channel, but it's an ever-moving thing. So we'll go with Ray Lewis number 1. I think that's obvious. I mean, greatest linebacker in the history of the NFL. And Ed Reed's number 2 for sure. Terrell Suggs, number 3. I'm going with Jonathan Ogden at number 4. I know some newer Ravens fans didn't get to watch him, but I watched him growing up. He was the first Ravens pick ever. He's one of, if not the greatest left tackles in the history of football. He's a Hall of Famer. And a personal reason that I love Jonathan Ogden is when I would go to Ravens games as a kid, Jonathan Ogden would always do the air drum solo to that Phil Collins in the Air Tonight. They would always play it in the warm-ups, and I would just wait and try to like zoom in with binoculars to see Jonathan Ogden do this air drum solo to in the Air in the Night. Like later in that song, it's like, and like, dude, like, I don't know, it just got me going, and it was something that I look forward to every time I went to a Ravens game. He's also one of the best left tackles ever, so Jonathan Ogden definitely makes the top 5. And then number 5, who is creeping up this list more and more as the years go, and if he ends up staying here for a long time and retiring here, he could really creep up this list. But number 5, I'm going with Lamar. Lamar's one of my favorite Ravens of all time. We're 8 years in now, and I can confidently say that. I think he's an all-time Raven. He's an all-time football player, and he's still got a lot more of his story to write. If we're just talking like retired Ravens that aren't here anymore, I'll slip Marshall Yanda into that list, and he's about to be in the Hall of Fame. I think he just embodies what it's like to be a Baltimore Raven, to play like a Raven, to be a professional, but also just play pissed off, man, and just be a leader on that team. It was just one of the most consistent rocks on our offensive line. And I think Yonda's a big reason why I'm like so hard on the guard play sometimes, because I know not every team has like great consistent guards, but when you watch Marshall Yanda for the majority of your fanhood, it is tough to like go to Falele or McCary or like Voorhees. Like, I'm like watching this and I'm watching them get beat like multiple times a game, and it is it's just tough for me to watch. So it's something that I'm still like overcoming, because I am used to seeing such a rock on this line like Marshall Yanda, and I just got to learn that he's a rare breed, man. So yeah, he would creep in the top 5 if we're doing, retired players, but if current players are tossed in there, I got to throw Lamar in there, and he's on the rise. But let me know your guys' top 5. It could just be favorite or who you think's the best or whatever. Top 5 Ravens all time in the comments, man. I love this question. Great question, man. And then the last question is from Emmanuel. Which player on our team should be traded or gets cut? I'll start with the getting cut, because I think that's the most obvious. Marcus Williams is definitely getting cut. They restructured his contract so that they could cut him. And then also, we'll see how it plays out, but I think Justin Tucker's getting cut. So Marcus Williams, Justin Tucker, probably getting released. And then traded is tough. I honestly don't think they trade anyone on the team, but let's just hypothetically talk. If they were going to trade someone, who would be the most likely candidate? I would still say that's probably Mark Andrews, even though I know they've committed to him. I'm not saying that I would trade Mark Andrews. I think I would extend him if he can take a team-friendly deal. and try to extend Likely and just kind of keep this going and let Likely's role increase. But I wouldn't be shocked if they traded Mark Andrews. He does have a $17 million cap hit. He's heading into his final year. He's an aging player who's turning 30. Like, there are, pros and cons here to trading him. So I think Mark Andrews is a candidate to be traded. Just looking at the cap hits, who has the biggest cap hit that we could kind of clear a lot of money to trade that's entering a non-committal future. Odafe Owe is on that list, but I don't really love making our pass rush worse. I feel like we should hold on to Odafe at least this last year and then maybe draft a young edge or sign a Khalil Mack or somebody in free agency so that we can really bolster this pass rush and not make it worse. If you got rid of a guy like Odafe Owe, you clear a lot of money. You might get a second-round pick or something, but immediately in the short term, you make the team worse. So I probably wouldn't trade him, but I'm just saying I wouldn't be shocked if a guy like that is traded because they're going to have to sign him to a long-term deal that's not going to be cheap, and he's heading into that final year, that franchise tag year. So I could see it. I wouldn't be shocked. So those are two names that kind of stick out. I mean, there could be like a smaller trade with a depth guy that they end up just kind of tossing into a bigger deal, but I genuinely don't think the Ravens are going to actually trade any players. I would say the leading candidate would be Mark Andrews if they do, but they're definitely going to cut some guys, and Marcus Williams is for sure at the top of that list. But that's it for today, guys. Let me know what you're thinking about everything, what's on your mind. I appreciate you guys, as always, for tuning in to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll let the greatest linebacker in the history of the game take us out.
Ravens Flock. Flock Rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. The Flock Rundown. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the